Hi everyone, welcome to today's webinar, How to Simplify Data Management with Hybrid Cloud. Today we have Zadara, Assembly, and IT Brand Pulse with us. And just a couple housekeeping items before we go ahead and get started. On your GoToWebinar control panel, you'll see a questions section. I'll be monitoring the questions as they come throughout the webinar. If we don't get to them right away, we'll definitely have a Q&A session at the end. So sit tight and we'll definitely make sure all of your questions do get answered today. We'll be asking a couple polls throughout. This is going to help us understand your needs better and how we can tailor this webinar a little bit better towards you. Lastly, there's a handout section. We have a couple different pieces of content there. If you'd like to learn more about Assembly, there's a data sheet there. We've got an infographic that talks about the benefits of storage as a service versus your traditional storage. And then a couple pieces about the Zadara's cloud technology and how to get great performance in the cloud for those of you who may be new to the cloud. So Howard, if you could go to the next slide, I'll go ahead and introduce everyone. So today we have Howard Young. He's the solutions architect here at Zadara Storage, and he has worked closely with Patrick Kennedy, the CEO and founder of Assembly, who's also joined us here today. They've seen some interesting things with our customers and partners currently, and things going on in the market, which Frank Berry, the CEO and founder, and also a senior analyst of IT Brand Pulse, will discuss how the market is moving, what's going on, and how something like Assembly has helped solving some of those pain points that we're seeing. It's a really cool tool and service that allows you to do data management all in one interface. So without further ado, actually, you know what? Let's start with a poll. I'm going to go ahead and launch a poll for you guys because I'm curious how everyone is currently deploying their storage. I'm wondering, are you using traditional on-premises? Do you have your own private cloud? Are you in the public cloud? Are you not sure what you're using right now? So go ahead. You should be able to see the poll on your screen, and just let us know, what are you using? And interesting, there's a lot of people that are using on-premises today, a little bit of people in the public cloud, and doesn't look like anyone's using their own private cloud right now. So that's great news. So we can show you how you can kind of manage a hybrid configuration if you're looking to move that on-premise data to the cloud. So at this point, I'm going to close the poll. Thanks for answering, and I'm going to turn it over to Frank Berry now.
Good morning, everybody. IT Brand Pulse covers data center infrastructure, including cloud services. And before this webinar, I researched what other analyst estimates were for the size of the storage as a service marketplace. And I looked at half a dozen different analysts, and they were estimating that somewhere between 2 and 15% of storage is now up on the cloud. And so the point is the market is still very, very new. And so most people are in the early stages. Even if they deployed it, the market is at the very, very early stages. So, that leaves a strategy on what to do in these early stages of the market. And one strategy is the Guerrilla Game. And it's identifying super performing cloud services and getting on board with those companies and those services early on. Next slide. So the market started to bifurcate in 2006 when Amazon Web Services started infrastructure as a service and storage as a service. And there's really two paths now. And it's not so much defined by technology, because hyperscale cloud technology is available on premises. It's really defined in large part by how it's consumed. And clearly the growth is in OpEx, storage as a service, and what's declining is CapEx. So as you'll see in a second, there's even now plenty of opportunity to deliver and consume storage as a service on premises as well as is in the cloud. But it's CapEx that's really declining. Next slide. this is IT Brand Pulse 10-year data center storage revenue forecast, and we're at the high end of all the analyst estimates. We believe this year a little over 15% of storage is up in the cloud, and that may be private cloud OpEx, it may be public cloud OpEx, but it is OpEx. But we expect that by 2020, half of all storage spending is going to be OpEx spending. And so it's going to happen within the next 3 years. It's going to be a huge swing in how people consume storage. Next slide. So the strategy of the Guerrilla Game comes from a book by Jeffrey Moore called The Guerrilla Game. And he mentions that it's kind of based on the story that everybody's heard. If you invested 10,000 pounds or $10,000 in Microsoft in '86, you now would have earned $1.8 million. So, and the way to win that strategy is to look for areas of hypergrowth, find the dominant players, those are the gorillas, in each of those multiple spaces and specific spaces, and then concentrate on those few. Next slide. So how do you identify gorillas? 2 ways. Discontinuous innovation. These are breakthrough trends which offer compelling benefits. New standards and operating models are based on them. And also companies like Zadara that bring about a sea change in how IT is doing business. And Zadara, still a small company, is actually very, very much at the front end of this transition to enterprise storage as a service. Next slide. So here's some examples of discontinuous innovation as relates to other types of innovation: incremental change, exploitive of old technologies, and infrastructure as a service, including where Zadara operates, and it is definitely an example of radical advances that profoundly alter the basis of competition. Zadara and storage as a service offerings are really eating up CapEx on-premises spending. Next slide. So we look for some end-user validation in addition to the industry estimates to kind of understand what's driving the thinking of the IT professionals. So one question we ask them is, what do you believe is the most powerful example of discontinuous innovation? And infrastructure as a service was at the top of their list relative to the other choices that was given to them. So they definitely recognize infrastructure as a service, including storage, as the biggest, discontinuous innovation. Next slide. So what does it take to be an enterprise storage as a service gorilla? Well, it takes a lot. It takes many layers of technology, products, support, and a lot of investment, expertise, and experience. And so this is a stack that represents the capabilities of Zadara storage that you as an end user or you as a potential reseller of Zadara storage can leverage. And it's a huge amount of investment, expertise, and product capabilities that they're to leverage. Next slide. So if we look beyond the product capabilities, one thing that I see in the everything as a service model is that it really follows, in some respects, the auto industry. And a big portion of the innovation is in financing. So if you look at the car industry model, even though car prices, monthly payments have gone up, because the interest rates have gone down, there's actually more cars sold every year than ever before. And it's because of that they're extending the leases to 73 to 84 months. Next slide. So this type of innovation, this OpEx model, is an example how the financing of the money management is a huge part of this transition from on-premise to cloud. But there's also another dimension to how IT is consumed, and it's back to this on-premise as a service or public cloud as a service. And Zadara has pioneered this concept of enterprise storage on premises as a service. It's like leasing, so your payments are spread out over time, but the terms are better than leasing a car, and I'll show you why. Next slide. Actually, looks like my slides are all order here, but here's another survey question that we asked IT professionals. If we had to choose one method of acquiring enterprise storage for my organization, their number one choice was to continue to do what they're doing. I want to buy my servers, my storage, and the networking. But the second best thing wasn't public cloud. It was actually subscribe to on-premise private cloud storage. So the private or on-premise storage as a service, the next best thing to do on your own is to do on-premise as a service. Next slide. So we also asked them, well, why is that? Which enterprise storage environment will offer the best price performance with many different storage workloads? And again, most IT professionals believe that they can get the best availability, the best performance by deploying it themselves and tailoring their solution to their own applications. The second best solution wasn't public cloud. It was subscribing to an environment to consume OpEx storage that's on-premise as a service. Next slide. So on-premise as a service is a game changer. For the last couple of years, Zadara storage was the only OpEx storage as a service that you could also have on-premise. But what's really changing the game is Microsoft with Azure Stack has decided to offer their cloud environment on-premise. And what I'm seeing is that all of the large vendors now are starting to join the game. So I think that's great news for the IT community because it's the best of both worlds. You get to only pay for the storage that you use, but can actually be on site in your data center. Next slide. So there's one other level of innovation that isn't addressed by Zadara, but you're going to hear more about that being addressed later in this by Acembly in this webinar. And there's more innovation needed to harness all these enterprise and home cloud apps. So if I use the metaphor of my home situation, this is my personal home situation. I have a doorbell, I have a garage door opener, I have lighting, home entertainment, personal systems that are now all driven by different apps, but none of them are connected. And so I'm simultaneously having to adopt new technologies, learn about new technologies, how to cut the cord, and none of my apps are integrated in any type of a console. And I know someday that's going to get fixed. And there's a similar problem with the enterprise cloud apps. So there's many disparate applications managing your storage, managing your database, managing lots of different cloud capabilities. And there's definitely a need for another layer of innovation above Zadara to abstract that service and others. Next slide. So here's from the book, a diagram of gorillas of the past. And the goal is to pick gorillas, and it was the way the taxonomy of the industry looks. So there's app software, OS software, IT hardware, semiconductors, and those are the traditional gorillas that most of us all partner with and all acquire our products from. But if we're looking forward, next slide. And if you're looking to identify a gorilla in on-premises or even cloud stores as a service, Zadara really is a gorilla. So I would urge you to consider to partner with them early on in the game. Next slide. So if you'd like to learn more from IT Brand Pulse, there's a link to the report on the Guerrilla Game. And I also would recommend that you take a look at our keynote presentation from the Zadara Annual Storage Conference We've got over 3,000 views on this slide deck, but it gives about 100 slides on details about cloud storage in the next 40 years. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Frank. That was great. And yeah, I actually got to witness Frank's presentation about cloud storage over the next 40 years. And there's some really interesting things that he's predicting and that I completely agree with, in the way that things are going. Data is only growing. So definitely check that out. So at this point, I think we'll hand it over back to Howard and have him talk about what he's seeing a little bit in the market.
Yeah, thank you, Christy, and thank you, Frank. That's very, very kind of you to share your information and future trend growth at where we fit in as as a storage company. We're just a small piece of this, and what Assembly brings to the table today. And I'll let Patrick continue on after this brief introduction of how we integrate with them. Is that they provide the glue that makes a lot of the capability, the garage door openers and all the components fit together. So it's a very good fit with Zadara, and allows you to do block and object and all that type of capabilities within our storage infrastructure. But it also gives you data mobility, and it's all built on our API. So it's a very it's one of the first applications that's come out for Zadara storage that resides on top of what we provide today, and it's a fairly fantastic product. And I'd like to introduce Patrick Kennedy of Assembly, and I've been working with Patrick for, I guess, about a year. He's one of our storage partners. He's got our storage in downtown LA in the One Wilshire building, so he connects a lot of customers across that infrastructure. And today, with Assembly, allows it gives you a much easier way to connect our storage and extend the capabilities.
Thank you, Howard, and thank you all for joining this morning. We're really excited about our partnership with Zadara and building out an ecosystem around everything that they've built. What our primary goal is to provide an easier experience with more tools within a single interface to the market, and all that Frank explained in the market more and more. And so transparency around cost and consumption, and then the ability to make changes on demand or in real time is really what we're focused on in the early stages of Assembly. We've been working closely with the Zadara team for about a year now, and it's been a fantastic experience. Their development and support team is top notch. They respond on any issues within 15 minutes, and it's the most impressive after years of being in the enterprise storage space. It's the most impressive support team that we've seen thus far. So we're very confident in working with them and feel like it's a great partnership moving forward. So one of the primary reasons we partnered early on with our plans for Assembly was Zadara's vision of how storage was going to be consumed in the future, as well as the technology itself that they've built out. So with that, I'll introduce Assembly, and we'll walk through some slides. And we're really interested in connecting with early adopters of Assembly, working closely with teams or clients or partners to do custom builds or react more and more to the market and the market needs that we see. So as of today, what we're able to offer with Assembly is very fast connectivity. Within a minute, you can connect to your AWS environment or Google Cloud platform, or you could provision our private cloud at One Wilshire in downtown Los Angeles is our core hub. And that's where we have our Zadara set up. And so on Assembly, which you'll see in a moment, you can either connect to your existing public or provision new storage, depending on whatever your requirements are. And we can have that set up for you within about 45 minutes today. Along with that, what we've developed over the past year is a full suite. So we've developed, we've done a lot of development with Zadara's API, so we're able to exploit and take advantage of all that they've built out within their private or public cloud. So it's a very robust offering, and the connectivity is very interesting, as you can connect any protocol you can connect to. We also have a few integrations that we're excited about for high-speed transfer. So we've partnered with File Catalyst, as well as a few other high-speed transfer partners. But we've done a lot of work with File Catalyst, and it is embedded within Acembly. So you're able to transfer from local to any public cloud, or our private cloud, or your private cloud on demand. So it's a very compelling price point compared to some of the competitors out there today, and the ease of use. I think you'd be quite amazed with how we built out our transfer component. Another piece that we're seeing is the need for more transparency through intelligence. So analytics and business intelligence around your infrastructure and your overall data sets. We have built out quite a robust feature with another partner, a leading software business intelligence partner, and we're able to exploit and deliver intelligence around any and all pieces of your infrastructure. Next slide, Howard. So our team is lean, and its team, it's a remote development team offshore, a very talented group of guys that have been building Acembly for the past year. Michael Asadorian came on board about 6 months ago. He has a great resume. He used to be the head of technology for Ubiquity, and we're really confident and feeling good about building the team further. But as of right now, we're on a strong path to development and attacking our roadmap here. So some of the pain points that we've seen over the years, I've been in the storage and integration space for about 9 years here in Los Angeles. And there's been a lot of change, specifically over the past 3 years, as cloud adoption becomes more real and a lot more possibility around cloud adoption. So these are some of the primary pain points. I won't read through them all, but I imagine they coincide with what you guys are seeing these days. But one of them is the management of storage, is understanding the costs associated with the capacity. Another is what is your storage, how many duplicate files you have within your storage environment, and how do you understand what to offload, or what to delete, or what to move to a cheaper cloud or private cloud or on-premise, how to move it around according to your needs.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of that, similar pain points across all of our customers, and this works really well for them to, as this product goes.
Yeah, and I think this directly relates to what Frank was saying earlier about your home systems and having everything connected and integrated. It relates truly back to this of having an all-in-one sort of piece. So good stuff.
So Howard, if we can move to the next slide. So key elements of our solution. So elasticity is one of the key points of Acembly. If you want to, the whole idea is not to get locked into long-term contracts. And if you do want to commit to a license for a year, we can, happily negotiate with our partners and directly with us agreements that make sense for both sides. But the idea is flexibility and elasticity for your storage and your overall services. So whether it be a hybrid storage environment and transparency there, being able to move things around by the end of this year with intelligence, so you can put metrics and points around how you want to, if your data hits 5 terabytes of storage and you want to offload automatically to Glacier, we'll have that in place within about 3 months. So it's control, it's visibility, and it's intelligence around your whole data set. The idea that we don't know what technology is coming out in the next 6 months, next year, next 2 months. So easily connect to any API and onload or integrate, I should say, new technologies onto Assembly. Assembly can play with any new technologies, whether they be cloud or otherwise. Although we are very much focused on the cloud, as Assembly is currently a web application, but we can license it accordingly to our partners as well.
Yeah, and one thing you mentioned the other day is that with Assembly, this will work with any Zadara cloud. So that's something that as we bring on partners, this is another type of element they can add to their solution too.
Correct. So what we're excited about is extending it to Zadara's partners and their ecosystem, where the partners can either white label it or leverage Assembly in the services and the development that we've built for their clients. So other SaaS companies can embed it, or partners can white label it and offer it as their own solution.
I'm glad you brought that up, Howard and Patrick, because actually there was a question that came in that asked if Assembly could be used for any Zadara private cloud. So if anyone's interested in learning more, we'll have contact information for you at the end. But great question.
Yeah. So if you have a private cloud, if you already have a Zadara private cloud in any data center anywhere in the world, the Assembly can connect to that, and you can manage that accordingly. So it's definitely it's flexible, and one of our early plans was for it to be of value to all of Zadara's partners.
That's fantastic news.
Next slide, Howard. So one of the things we're primarily focused on is making the storage experience easier. As Frank mentioned, we believe that it's still in the early days of cloud adoption, and we don't know exactly what it's going to look like in 5 years, of course, but we believe that there's going to be a lot more cloud migration to the cloud, whether it be public or having your own private. We believe that we're very much in the early days, and it's pretty fascinating because I saw a metric that the public cloud drove over $200 billion in revenue just last year in 2016. So it's quite fascinating how much is being consumed in the public cloud. However, it still feels like there's a lot of on-prem investments in slow transitioning for all kinds of reasons. But one of the things that we're really focused on is making that hybrid experience and the mobility around the data from on-prem to public cloud or private cloud much easier and with much more transparency. So from hybrid to administration and all the way down this list, speed to adoption, what we just commented on, being able to connect to new technologies within a few days rather than going through long sales cycles, migrations and elasticity. All of these points we find to be quite relevant in the challenges that organizations are facing today.
And of course, you have to put in the unknown because we don't know what's coming out. I mean, we have IoT is a big player, but there's always these odd technologies coming out. And what I really like about this concept is that if you go to AWS today, you have a behemoth of features, and it's like there's so many features that it's really hard to narrow down to provide a storage solution for a lot of customers.
Exactly. So every week I get at least one email, usually 2 emails on updates to AWS services or technologies. it's impossible to keep up with that. And they're amazing technologies. They're great. They apply a lot of value, but for small businesses to the enterprise, you need resources, and you need expertise around understanding how to apply that.
Exactly.
One of the things that we're really focused on is identifying the core technologies that support the businesses that we work with, and the broader market. The core technologies, not a lot of these technologies that you see updates with AWS, they're for developers. They're for teams that understand exactly how to go about managing and supporting those technologies in the environments that those technologies support. But with Assembly, we're trying to simplify and attack the core technologies, the S3s, and the products, the on-prem storage, the transfer components, transcoding for the media space, and then encryption and intelligence around simple workflows like archiving and moving things around. Obviously, protection of the data is paramount. So encryption is one of the ways that we're securing it, but we've also partnered with a leading security company to make sure that the application is as protected as possible. All right. So this is Assembly 1.0. This is how one would connect to their storage. So Assembly, you can't do much with Assembly until you actually connect or onboard your data set. The four storage components that we've focused on to start are Zadara, which we've white labeled into Assembly Private Cloud. And again, we can extend that to the market, and managed service providers or partners of Zadara can call that offering what they want with the full suite of offers. Amazon Web Services obviously is the leader in public cloud, and Google is doing, they're throwing a lot of investment and resources at intelligence, and they're doing a lot of exciting stuff. But with Google, more than Amazon, you do need to have more resources and an understanding of development at a different level. And Cumulo is another exciting storage company that we've partnered and integrated with early on here. So when a user signs up to Assembly, and again, it's a web application. So what we're trying to do is extend it to small companies all the way, to some of the larger companies which are actually using Assembly today. Is make that experience and the onboarding and understanding how to navigate within Assembly as easy as possible. So if a user just clicked on one of these, for example, the Amazon S3, next slide, Howard, you would be brought to a very simple form, which many of you are probably familiar with. You just enter the user would enter their API key and secret, and it immediately onboards their AWS account. And the user, next slide, Howard, the user can realize immediately what's going on in that environment. This is just the storage. So this is just S3. For some reason, I titled this one S4 just for testing purposes, but there are 10 buckets in this account, and you see the usage. It takes a couple minutes for the usage to aggregate throughout the various buckets. But this is where you can manage your storage a bit, through alerts you can set up limits with consumption and costs. It's very simple steps to do so. Next step, Howard. Next slide.
And that's actually really good, because you can actually see how much storage you're using at that aggregated level.
Yes, and we'll show you in a second in the hybrid page. We'll show you the costs of it, and then we've broken out costs as well. So the true costs within your AWS account. So you can monitor that whole environment from the hybrid page. But here you can take some simple steps to just put alerts, simple triggers on what your limits are. We can notify many other requirements as well. So if you had a client or you are a client and you request notification for different function or purpose of storage, like whatever it might be, we can pull on that API and expose that as well. So to start, consumption and price seem to be the primary things that people are looking for. Eventually, we're going to get into forecasting and that type of thing, but for now, we want it to be a simple offering in this sense.
Have you considered doing something like performance? If you want to go to a higher tier.
Absolutely, yeah. We actually have that in the works. So reading what the performance is, the speeds. We're doing testing actually with one of the larger broadcasters right now on that very thing for S3 and the other storage components, as well as Zadara in our private cloud. We have a direct connect from One Wilshire into AWS. So we're testing a number of different metrics, and we haven't put them on the interface yet, but we plan to do it. We're just trying to identify what makes most sense. So we're trying to get a read from the market on what's most valuable there. So when a user wants to add storage, there's a simple drop down here, and we've been very focused on the first year, very focused on the back end. And so one of the things I'm super excited about is updating the interface here. That's in motion, and by Q4 we're going to have a new interface. But this is the functionality, and the purpose is just to get to market as quickly as possible, to understand what the true value is here, and to start working with clients on how they want to build this out further. The add storage, you can add more AWS accounts. You can add as many as you want. You can connect to your Cumulo environment or Google Cloud, or you can provision your own private cloud directly here on Acembly. And so one would click on Acembly Private Cloud, which again is Zadara, and it brings you to a very simple form. And even though this is just a couple of steps here, there's been a ton of backend. There's a lot going on in the backend to make this happen. So one would just name their storage, just a basic name for your own purposes, and then you start allocating what resources you want. So how many drives you need depending on the requirement for the storage. As you can see in real time, you can see the cost associated with it. So you select the drives accordingly, and then you go to the next one where you can, if you can go to the next slide, Howard, the CPUs. So the performance, the engine. You don't need to add more here, but if you want higher performance, you can get pretty high in performance here. We exploit the best of what Zadara offers.
So Patrick, one thing is you mentioned that when you select the drives and create a VPSA, which is our underlying structure, it builds the rate sets and the volumes for you. You don't, it's making even our storage easier to manage for customers.
Correct. Yes, we've worked closely with you guys to make this process simple, easy, and there's still human interaction once you submit the form needed on the networking side on the back end, and we like to verify with the client to make sure that everything is set up according to the requests and what they want. So we're in touch after a user would allocate or fill out this form, and then if you go to the next slide, and then submit for allocation. Our team is notified, and we take immediate action on setting it up and connecting accordingly. So we probably reach out to the client or your team. We can also, as you can see, we can discuss things over Slack, but early on we want to have direct connection in very fast response for our clients. So once it's submitted for allocation, we will be in touch with the client, and we'll have that storage available. The VPSA is available within a half hour to an hour, depending on what the protocols are for on the networking side.
Yeah, I like that you can also allocate app engines. I really, our app engine is our underlying structure is our infrastructure is Docker. That's a game changer, and it's growing rapidly. We're seeing more and more array extensions and extensibility just in our product, and this gives you you're targeting, for example, media. You can do a lot of things such as transcoding the data, which really saves a lot of time.
Exactly. Yeah, this could be a very project-oriented solution for groups that are doing fast productions. If you want to rev this up for 2 weeks and then offload the data and shut it down, you use it on demand accordingly, per your guys' lead, of course. And I do want to mention that even though you see the hourly costs, we can always put that into a monthly, and if it's a longer term, we can figure out a way to get flat rates in there. So those I do want to mention while we're on the call that those hourly rates, they're somewhat negotiable depending on the purpose and the length of time that users will be using the storage.
Yeah, I remember we had one customer wanted to go in your cloud. They only wanted to use it for like 5 days, and then we have other ones that they're long term. It's it varies. That's the advantage of this service.
Yes, in working together, working with Zadara, we have done, I think, a pretty good job of extending compelling prices depending on what the performance requirements are. But even if it's higher performance and there's a need and it's longer term, we can get quite aggressive with those price points. So this would be our hybrid page. Let's say that a user wanted to connect to all 4 of the storage components that we currently offer connectivity to on Assembly. Manage from this one page, and not only can they monitor it and hover over, and this is just a screenshot, but hover over and see the various costs associated with the various services, say with an AWS, but they can actually click down into the buckets and access their data. So we've done the work where you can click in. This is AWS, for example. You see the costs associated with each of these buckets. The green dots are individual buckets here. So if you were to click on any one of those buckets, you would have access to uploading and downloading locally to S3 and vice versa. We've gotten some good feedback from some of our clients that's quite valuable to have that kind of transparency, especially at the price point that Assembly is right now. We're also working on a drag and drop into Slack. As you can see, Slack is over there. We can turn Slack off if some people don't like Slack so much, but we did onboard it and integrate it because we're excited about some of the development that we're doing with Slack technologies and the value that those technologies can bring to infrastructure management, hybrid management moving forward. So we're pretty excited about that as well. But if you don't want Slack on the application, you don't need it, but it's a very simple step to onboard it and use Slack without leaving the application.
So do you use Slack for support tickets and any type of queries on or questions that customers have?
Absolutely. So Slack is our support line. We also have a old-fashioned phone number as well and support email. But Slack is 24/7. We're going live with Assembly. We already have it in about 12 different customer sites, but officially going live with Assembly on July 24/7 support via Slack. We understand the importance of supporting these infrastructures, and so around the clock support for our clients is absolutely necessary. So the idea is a couple of our partners, including Zadara, have really changed the game when it comes to support. There's no longer these long-term 1 to 3 year contracts that cost way too much money. There's the support lags, days sometimes. I've been in situations where it's weeks, and with Assembly, we're looking to streamline that to real-time support. Within a few minutes at the latest. And our support team will troubleshoot and help with any of our storage partners' connectivities or issues there. So we do look to Slack in that communication set to support the environment.
Yeah, that's really good news. Customers really appreciate the quick turnaround.
Yeah, more and more speed is essential in support around it. We can't leave any users hanging if they're in the middle of something, or they need that data, or they can't access a bucket, or they can't transfer on a requirement. We need to be able to react to it right away. All right, next slide, Howard. This will bring us to our transfer page, and once again, we have a couple different ways of transferring and uploading, downloading. We can do it natively, but we also do it. Our partnership with File Catalyst is very exciting, and File Catalyst is going to announce our offering with them, and we're going to be quite aggressive with it with File Catalyst. But we're able to upload and download. To transfer from locally to Google, to Azure, to our private cloud, Zadara, and back at speeds up to 10 gigs using File Catalyst. A user can simply click on it. They'll see the data. This is a smaller screenshot here, but they'll see the data and the files and the size of the data, the costs associated with the data. We're at 30 gigs per 30 cents per gig. I could do it. 30 cents per gig to start out with, which for the technology is a very compelling price point, and we're trying to drive that down. With volume, we obviously can get lower than that, but our transfer component here, we're excited about, and we're excited about offering that to the Zadara community, as we know that high-speed transfer for large files in the media space is essential. We have clients that transfer up to 5 to 8 terabytes per day, and we think that we're going to be able to save them a lot of money, and the usability is going to be better than their current experience. Our development roadmap for the rest of the year is quite exciting. Encryption, as I mentioned earlier, is paramount. We know how important it is to protect the data and the IP associated with the business. So encryption is going to be available within the first few weeks of July, which is just a few weeks away. Federated search, we're building out a search feature. If you onboard Google, AWS, Zadara, you can search the entire environment looking for your data or your files on Assembly, and it'll, independent of where the data exists, if it's in Europe, or if it's out here, let's search that environment, it'll find your files accordingly. So we're really excited about the federated search feature coming out. Machine learning reporting, we're already implementing machine learning and giving reporting through Slack is one of the things that we're excited to show off later in the year. And then you can see the features as we go down, but transcoding and watermarking services are going to be available. We're not building those ourselves. We have a partnership with encoding.com that we're excited about, and we're working closely with them. Automation is an absolute need for a number of reasons, but automation is something that we're working towards. The redesign that I mentioned, as well as a forecasting feature for costs for finance departments and smaller businesses, is something that we're working towards as well. We're getting here to the end. So who benefits from Assembly? We think that Assembly is quite valuable a wide range of businesses. We've made it affordable and accessible to the smallest of businesses down to the individual, and all the way to the enterprise. So like I mentioned, some of our clients are some of the larger broadcast media companies in the world, but we really wanted to make a tool that was available to almost anybody, and if they have the budget to take advantage of the enterprise technologies that we've integrated, then great, they have access to it right away. But we've also made it so that it's valuable for other SaaS technologies to embed, and then other partners, as mentioned earlier, to white label and extend to their clientele. In any video maker. So we do see an explosion, and there's every report shows us that video is taking over the world, software and video. So we want it to be a valuable tool for any video maker. Here's a brief snapshot of we have other partnerships, but these are our primary partnerships. Many of you are probably familiar with a lot of them, but we've worked really hard and closely with each one of these companies, and they bring a lot of value to us. But again, what we're trying to do is exploit and turn what they've built into a single interface where things are much easier to manage and take advantage of. So these are some of the leading technology companies in the world here, and we're very excited about the partnerships that we have in place. And finally, as you can see, Acembly is, as I mentioned, is affordable to almost anybody to start, and we wanted it to be very, very aggressive. I mean, I don't know any offering like this that could be as aggressive, but we want it to be accessible and available, and we want to see what's valuable to the market. So we want to test the market, we want to get feedback, and we want to offer the highest value that we could possibly identify and deliver on. So these are our primary plans as of today, and with both plans you have access to our Acembly Cloud, which is Zadara's full offering. And with that, I think it sums up my part of the presentation. I do want to thank Zadara and Christy for organizing this. The partnership's been great, and my team is extremely excited about moving forward with you guys.
Yeah, thanks so much, Patrick. That was really helpful, and I hope that you all in attendance today found value and see the value that we see that Acembly brings to the Zadara environment. So thanks for taking the time and sharing today. If anyone's interested in signing up for a demo with Acembly today only, we'll give you a $20 Amazon gift card. We know your time's valuable, but we think that there's a lot of value in this program and this product. So there's a bit.ly there. So go ahead and sign up. Patrick will get in touch in scheduling a private demo so that we can, go over your specific use case and make sure you understand the back end of the platform. He showed a couple screenshots here today, but I think it would be really awesome if you could get in and see exactly what it looks like. So again, go to bit.ly/Acembly web demo, submit your information there, and Patrick will be in touch to schedule a private demonstration. We did have a couple questions, and I see we have a couple minutes left here before we hit the top of the hour. So I just wanted to cover a couple of those. And Patrick, I believe you touched on this, but I'd like to just reiterate if you could. Someone's asking if you're able to sync the data between Acembly Cloud and AWS or other public clouds. I think you mentioned AWS and Google, but if you wanted to go into a little more detail there.
Sure. Yes, we're able to sync data in a number of ways, but one of the ways is how Zadara has built it out. So we're able to. Zadara has done amazing development within AWS, and Google as well, and we're able to sync from the private cloud to AWS seamlessly, very easily, and we can tell you more about how that works and the costs associated with that in a demo. We're also able to sync and move data around natively with Acembly, and so with our private cloud, we can upload, download, and and sync according to the requirements, whether it be AWS, Google, your own private cloud, wherever you want to sync it, we'll be able to move it there.
Great. And the other question that I saw come in was they're asking if this assembly team is open to custom development. I guess maybe they have a specific use case that wasn't discussed today. Is that something that you guys are looking to do?
Absolutely, yes. So, so for any group that sees a value of assembly but has specific requirements or wants to build certain features, if it falls in line with our roadmap, or if it makes sense within the vision of assembly, we're really excited about doing custom builds for both our partners and clients. So we're very open to having discussions around custom.
That's great to hear. So yeah, if you guys do have any sort of specific use case or custom pieces that you'd like to talk to Patrick with about, please visit the URL so we can get the conversation started. Looks like that's all the questions we have today. Thanks again, everyone who joined. Thank you, Patrick, Howard, and Frank for being here and taking the time to show the value in this and get the information out there. So if anyone has any follow-up questions, just go ahead and submit on the bit.ly there, and we'll be in touch. Have a great Tuesday.